Day 10. The Middle East holds its breath as Iran selects its new supreme leader following the assassination of Ayatollah Khamenei. The bombing continues to expand from Tehran to Isfahan, from the suburbs of Beirut to the outskirts of Baghdad. The battlefield is no longer a front line. It is a circle of fire encompassing the entire region. But while the warplanes are flying, the diplomats are scrambling. In Cairo, Arab foreign ministers convened in an emergency session, desperately trying to contain a fire that threatens to consume them all. Their message: international law, respect for sovereignty, and keeping the region out of the inferno of war, whose consequences are unknown. The question hanging over every capital, from Algiers to Muscat: can the voices of de-escalation prevail over the drums of war? This is All 24 News Special. Hello there, dear viewers, and welcome to tonight's special. To understand where we are on day 10 of the war, Zara Ferjani has compiled this report for us. Let's follow.
10 days into the war in the Middle East, U.S. and Zionist strikes continue targeting Iran. Overnight from Saturday into Sunday, several Iranian oil facilities were attacked. The National Iranian Oil Refining and Distribution Company says the strike hit 4 oil storage facilities and a petroleum products center in Tehran and Al-Burz. However, authorities say fuel supplies will continue through alternative sources. Iran's Red Crescent and the Environmental Protection Organization also warned of air pollution and possible toxic acid rain following explosions at oil and fuel storage tanks.
To find out about that, we haven't talked about it, but it was a total obliteration. They haven't been able to get to it, and at some point maybe we will. You know, that would be a great thing. But right now we're just decimating them. But we haven't gone after it, but something we could do later on. We wouldn't do it now. Maybe we'd do it later.
Inside Iran, authorities say 19 people were killed and dozens injured after missile strikes hit the city of Najaf Abad in Isfahan province, while air defenses say they shot down a Zionist Hermes drone over Markazi province.
We have the capability to produce missiles, but we have deliberately limited ourselves to a range of less than 2,000 kilometers because we do not want to be considered a threat to any other party in the world. Trump should apologize to the peoples of the region and to the Iranian people for the killings and destruction they have committed against us. The Americans are the ones who started this war against us and attacked us, and we are defending ourselves. It is clear that our missiles cannot reach U.S. territory. What we can do, however, is target American bases and facilities around us, which unfortunately are located in the territory of our neighboring countries.
Meanwhile, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps say it launched new waves of attacks under Operation True Promise 4, targeting military and energy facilities in the occupied Palestinian territories and the U.S. base in Ali Salem in Kuwait. The ongoing U.S. Zionist war on Iran comes as tensions continue to rise across the Middle East, with both sides warning that further responses remain on the table.
And the news making headlines now in every media outlet. Iran has named Mujtaba Khamenei as its new supreme leader, just over a week after the assassination of his father, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. In United States, Zionist strikes that plunged the entire region into a sprawling war. The 56-year-old, who will now be charged by leading the Islamic Republic through the biggest crisis in its 47-year history, was named by clerics as his father's successor on Sunday. And to parse through the rubble of geopolitics, high finance, and the diplomatic maneuvering of Day 10, we are joined by 3 distinguished experts. From California State University, Los Angeles, is Dr. Hamoud Salhi. Hello there, Doctor. Thank you for agreeing to be with us.
It's my pleasure, Karim, and thank you for sharing the plateau with you and your guests.
Our pleasure. And from Paris, France, MENA affairs expert, Dr. Abdenour Toumi. He's a geopolitical analyst and many affair expert. Hello there, Doctor, and thank you for agreeing to be with us.
Good evening, and thank you for having me on the program, and my special greetings to our dear friends and distinguished guest.
Thank you indeed. And from New York is geopolitical and financial analyst, Mr. Mohammed Chris Sassi. Hello there, sir, and thank you for agreeing to be with us tonight.
Assalamu alaikum wa sahaftorkum. And again, thank you for the invite and my regard to your distinguished guests. Thank you.
Thank you indeed. So, gentlemen, we are on day 10. Iran selected a new supreme leader. The bombing is still there. Arab foreign ministers have met in Cairo. So let's just start with a broad question to all of you. How do you assess the landscape on day 10? Is diplomacy gaining ground, or is the military logic already irreversible? Dr. Abdunnoor Toumi.
Actually, this war now enters in its second week, and it is that campaign of, let's put it this way, it's shocking all. It's a punishing military campaign with no coherent end game, in which it has no clear strategic objectives. So this war, in the end of the day, I mean, has no state end. And we saw the selection of the new supreme leader of the Islamic Republic in Iran appears clearly in response, first of all, to the assassination of his father and family. And it's a defiant message to the US and to the Zionist entity. So this is, I mean, we're still in the war, in the dynamic of the war. And I think we had mentioned that, and this war has become clearly now, it's a war of attrition versus deterrence.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Mahmoud Salhi, excuse me. So if we're talking about Mujtaba Khamenei, who was indeed or selected as the next supreme leader, critics are saying that Iran has effectively moved toward a form of dynastic succession of some sort, something the Islamic Republic was originally created to avoid after the 1979 revolution led by Ruhollah Khamenei. Now, does this undermine the ideological legitimacy of the Iranian system, or does the war environment perhaps actually strengthen the regime's ability to rally the public around continuity?
It's really would undermine that kind of argument would undermine the process of selecting the Ayatollah. You have an assembly of experts composed of 80 or 88 people. It's been the number vacillating between those two, who are well equipped in the Iranian constitution, and who made this decision as their own supreme ruler. Certainly, as we have seen in the past, this position is also picked on several bases, including political consideration. And in that instances, because of the qualification that the son of Ali Khamenei has had, and for many years, this is not you give a degree to someone just because he is the son or the daughter of somebody. No, there are schools that these people go through. So there are stages in how you become an Ayatollah. And certainly the knowledge that you acquire is what it was defined your position in that hierarchy. The Ayatollah or Ali Khamenei, the late Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, did not need for his son to be an Ayatollah if he were to nominate him as his successor. We had himself was not when he was picked. He was 1 degree less than the Ayatollah. He was Hajjat Islam, meaning that there are political considerations to consider. And one could argue in this instance, perhaps given the merits and the credential that the son of Ali Khamenei has, perhaps the experts, when they voted on this issue, want to send the Americans a sign or a message that they hold their leader who they killed in high esteem, and they are selecting another Ali Khamenei from the family, Muhtajab, from the family, in following that the tradition of picking what they want to pick and who they want to pick. Other than that, it's all calculations. And believe me, the Iranian clergy is filled with debates. We've seen this during Ahmadinejad, when even the Ayatollah credentials were questioned. He who was the supreme at the time, and there was a lot of scenarios wanting the Ali Khamenei to resign. And at the time, as we've seen, as we know, there was a huge sort of evolution in the Iranian society between the rise or the continued sustaining, the continuing influence of the so-called liberal moderate in Iranian political landscape and the conservative. And that debate did produce anything but a healthy democratic process. Mm-hmm. So I do not think that there is any sort of any question about the credibility and the merits of Muhtajab Khamenei, but I don't rule out that there are political consideration when the expert or the expert of the assembly use their vote.
Mm-hmm. Thank you indeed. And now let me move to Mr. Mohammed Sassi. So, of course, when I speak with you, Mr. Mohammed Sassi, we always talk about numbers, politics, and economy. And here, markets and strategic planners are trying to understand whether Mujtaba Khamenei represents continuity or escalation. Analysts say he holds close ties with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the most powerful military and economic force in Iran. Now, if the IRGC's influence increases under his leadership, what does that mean for sanctions, global oil markets, and the risk of prolonged confrontation with the United States, according to you, Mr. Mohammed Sassi?
Well, I am going to look at it through the economical causality of this war involving Iran, as you said, but it's not going to change anything in the reality of the economics. You have Iran, you have the United States, and you have Israel. Mainly, they come and with this declaration war, this aggression of Iran, is not a war, political war. Now it becomes an economical war, and that is more critical because it's going to affect the energy market worldwide. It's going to oblige all this pass through Detroit of Hormuz, which is 20% of all the passage through other world. It's closed, so it's going to be 45 regarding the numbers, 45% higher for the cost of the transport. That's one thing. And also,
Mr. Mohammed Sassi, excuse me, but you're cut in and we can't really hear you well, so we're going to try and call you again to fix that problem. Meanwhile, I move to Dr. Abdenour Toumi. Since you mentioned, Dr. Abdenour Toumi, the fact that this sends a message to Washington earlier in your intervention, I would like to highlight this message. Are we talking about a message perhaps of defiance or strategic deterrence during wartime?
Actually, is both, particularly in these critical and crucial moments for the Islamic Republic of Iran. And let's don't forget, the Islamic Republic, it's not a one-man show as it is portrayed unfairly, particularly in the mainstream Western media. It's been for the last 47 years institutionalized, and as a result, there are multiple centers of power, of course, with multiple layers of security and intelligence institutions. And this is why it makes these, again, critical moments for the Republic Islamic of Iran. And it is, in fact, a survival moment for, I won't say the regime, but the message is also of the leaders and the deep state of the Republic, Islamic Republic of Iran, is about to save the regime, to save those institutions, and to at least keep the, I would say, the model of the Islamic Republic that has been installed 47 years ago, and has all these ramifications in the geopolitics and geoeconomics landscape of Iran. And this is why now, after 1 week has passed of this illegal war, so we saw now the narrative is starting to change, but from Washington, for instance, when it comes to Iran. So now in that, I mean, one has not to pay too much attention to those, I would say, declaration of President Donald Trump to the media. But I believe there are serious talks behind the scenes who now are looking for, first of all, for this persona of the new leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And by the way, I mean, he has this, I would say, triangle position. I mean, who is not just a political leader, but also a spiritual leader and a military leader. So this is why now the deep state in Iran are sending, of course, this strong message, first of all, of unity and coherence about their objectives of this ongoing war, and also sending a message to the neighboring countries and letting the other side, now the Washington, to deal with these new parameters that has emerged in light of the assassination of late Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and the selection of today's of his son.
Thank you indeed. Now, let me broaden this to all of the panel. If Mujtaba Khamenei represents a more confrontational posture toward the United States and the Zionist entity, does his rise reduce the chances of negotiations to end the war? Or maybe this could be a stronger ideological leader actually having more room to strike a deal maybe later? Dr. Abdul Toumi.
In fact, I mean, he has that authority now, and to some extent legitimacy, because we saw in the latest development following of his selection, there is this consensus among the political elite and the religious elite in Iran. And more importantly, we saw how the masses, I mean, the people who took the street and showing his support. And of course, I mean, there is a process that you will have the allegiance from the entire, from the people also, and the political leaders and the religious leaders in the country. But this is at the moment we are in that posture of war. So we are not moving to the peace yet, but I believe he has, sure, he has this background of, I won't say he's an ideologue, but he has some sense of Iranian pragmatism that he will put in front in the coming days, and how this war will play out. And therefore, he will have a strong room for negotiation. But the negotiation this time, I think, and we all know when it comes to the negotiation with the Americans, there is a key factor here is trust, and it doesn't exist at all. And it's very, very hard now to reconstruct that element in the negotiation process. So, but I believe there are possibilities that will push for negotiations, because in the end, he needs also to ensure or give strong assurance for his people for stability. Now, in that, not from the other side, I mean, the Zionist entity that doesn't have the same objective like Washington. To the contrary, the Zionist entity have the basic objective is first of all to destroy Iran and to create more chaos, and by creating more instability and by going after all these ethnic elements in the country.
Thank you indeed. And Dr. Hamoud Salhi, what do you think? What is your take on this? Do you think Mujtaba Khamenei represents a more confrontational posture toward this war, let's say, the war against Iran by the United States and the Zionist entity, or maybe he could have room to strike a deal later?
I think you can say both. And I agree with Dr. Toomey that there are a lot of factors to take into perspective. But one thing to look at is how Iran, throughout all this, its existence, has viewed itself in the world. And when we see, for example, when the Iranian came to power, or the Islamic Republic came to power, they took a worldview based on how they are going to exist in the world order. And they use the approach, what we call a confrontational approach, meaning that they believe that by projecting power, by projecting the perception they are a threat to the region, for example, or to other parties, the United States, for example, that sort of is a way for them to create deterrence and therefore continue or prolong their existence. But then when the issue is settled, particularly with the end of the Iraq war, the Iranian finds himself moving to another direction. And that direction was laid off by Rafsanjani, President Rafsanjani first, and then Ali Khamenei was there also. And it came at its highest under Mohammed Sayyid Khatami. During that period, the Iranians start to look at the world from the perspective of cooperation, collaboration, accommodation. They felt that they reached the stage where they could deal with the outside world without fear. And under Khatami, you had huge rapprochement, even with the Gulf countries, except with one country. They had open relationships started a new chapter with Italy, France, and other countries. And that path continued with a slight difference, again, under Ahmadinejad, of course, with the collaboration and the guidance of the Supreme Ruler, where we've seen a mix of collaboration, accommodation, but also confrontational. We've seen that, for example, in how Ahmadinejad, a conservative, who did not sort of look at the United States the same way that Khatami was looking at it, more of a friendlier, rather saw it at the enemy. When we look at today, we see really new things that has developed with this attack, or the attack previously in June 2025, and with the Tofan situation. What we are, the Iranian now see themselves as they view the world, or they want to see themselves to be to continue to exist through confrontation and alignment, and collaboration as the ultimate way. The alignment is that we've seen Iran now becoming a member of BRICS, Now the relationship that are set with China and Russia are set the page to see even the Middle East will be shaped by this alignment that the Chinese, the Iranians, and the Russians will have in this region. So the ruler, the supreme ruler, all these worldviews were supported and blessed by the supreme ruler. It's the supreme ruler that has the final stage. And I see Khamenei going in that directions, looking, giving an olive branch, if you want, to remember late Yasser Arafat, to the Americans that let's start a new chapter and think about diplomatic solutions. And you've seen that there are a lot of movement in the region seeking for that solution. But at the same time, preserving the right to protect themselves by aligning with major superpowers in the region. So we just have to wait and to see what will come out of Iran and see how it will develop. That worldview, yeah.
Thank you indeed. And as we're talking, we are hearing of breaking news that explosions were heard in Doha. And this leads me to my previous question to Mr. Mohammed Krissasi. As we see, the situation is rapidly escalating in the Middle East, and we see a lot of Gulf countries being targeted in this war. Now, what does this mean for the market? I let you catch up on the idea you started before we had that technical issue.
I hope you are going to hear me. Tell me if you hear me okay now.
Yes,
Is it better?
Yes, way better.
Is it better? Yeah. I will continue. As I was saying, the key factor, economical factor, the biggest one is the oil. As I said before, the Middle East control the large share of global oil supply, and the key checkpoint is the Strait of Hormuz, where about 20% to 30% of the world pass by there. So you have a causality. The chain is what? You have the war, you have the tanker interruption, you have the supply that drops. So you are going to have a rise on the oil price and the global inflation. For example, the gas to the barrel of petrol, the Brent, was about $65 10 days ago. Today, it's already at the moment I'm talking to you, it's already at $98. That's something that you have to take in consideration. And also with the bombing of Doha, Manama, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, this war is costing to the American economy 1.7 billion, and this is the number of Brown University, a day. The 100 first hours was costing about 5 billion. Here, economically, you have the strength on the USA. Israel cannot sustain the 3 billion a week. It's a small economy. Without American, they are going to be strangled. So already the American, the MAGA of Trump saying, but why you have to spend all this money? And I'm talking to make a picture as simple as I can. You have the war, the reaction, the chain reaction, and then you have the American that say, why you have to do that? And don't forget, we already talking about 120 billion spent to help Ukraine. That's really something that in the long run is going to be able to continue. Now, why I'm saying that you cannot continue? Look at the June 25, after 12 days, Israel was asking to stop. America was saying, Trump said to Netanyahu at that time, we have to stop it, it's too costly. I don't want to go to break the numbers, but I think we take the picture because trade and shipping disruption with the Strait of Hormuz is going to be an impact not only on the region, but in the world. And this is why now you have the Chinese coming in. And the Chinese are already there. They've never been in the region. What they are saying, 50% of my oil come from Iran. I don't want my economy to suffer because you want to be the gendarme or the dictatorship of the world. That's number one. And you have Russia. Russia is going to be a beneficiary, but still they don't want Iran to fail because they know the danger that is going to represent for the region, and consequently their intervention are going to be there. Now, if you continue that line of thought, what America can do, what the Gulf region can do. The Gulf region, as Salhi was saying as well as to me, they were living on what? On the investment that people were doing in the region. Now the GCC region is not going to have any investment. They are not going to wake up from this saying, oh, come back and you are welcome. No, people are not going to go. And all the region, then the structure, financial structure is going to change. And the causality is the world is going to change. Look what happened in France, for example. Look what happened with Italy, with Spain. They understand, specifically the last two that I'm talking, the Spain and the Italy, say we don't want to get involved. France, Macron wants to be the new Louis XIV, but is not going to sustain. Economically, this war cannot continue. It's too costly, as I said. And I give you again the number, 3 billion, and this is the number of Brown invested, 3 billion the first week for Israel, 3.7 billion to 5 billion for the first 100 hours for America, and 1 billion now a day costing America. Until when? They cannot do it. They have to stop. Now, how they are going to stop? America have to learn the lesson with Iraq. When you want to change the regime, it's going to bring chaos. They didn't learn the lesson in Afghanistan. They didn't learn the lesson in Libya. Each and every time you go for the change, it reinforces the unity of the country. And it makes it worse for all the small group that are going to be disrupting all this. Thank you.
And this leads me to the next question, Dr. Hamoud Salhi. If Washington, and we have all seen it, has openly stated it does not accept this leadership transition, while Tehran insists only Iranians can choose their own leaders. So, are we here witnessing the beginning of a direct confrontation over legitimacy, I'm saying itself, not just territory or security? And if we are going to see the war ending, who has the right to shape Iran's political future?
Well, the obvious is the Iranian people. And the Iranian people, through their institutions, said we want Khamenei, Muhtajab Khamenei. The United States has no say in it. I think what the idea is doing is to shift attention away from what's happening on the ground. That the United States is desperately looking for ways of getting out of this war because of the cost that is inflicting. All the strategies that they have been using to defeat the Iranians have come to a very, very important problem, which is the American people cannot fathom this war. The cost is tremendous, as Cersei mentioned earlier. They are looking for a way out. So by creating a narrative, a new discussion, a new topic for discussion, is really beyond is to serve the public opinion more than anything else. And it's a clever way of diverting attention from what's happening on the ground, which is the killing of innocent around 175 children, that the issue is still on the media. The attack on the civilian and so on and so forth, and a war that is continuing without any results. Plus, the biggest issue is the increase of oil prices. So this idea of, if I will not approve of a leader, or you have to choose a leader that I would approve with, that I would approve of. Iran is not Venezuela, and it's misconceived policy to view Iran the same way as we're looking as you view in Venezuela. And I think that's the major problem, or it's expected. There is a series of flaws here, is that we have to have a certain sort of a voice of reason, where we have to come and accept what happened in the Iranian scene. To me, this should be an opportunity for the Americans and the Zionist regime to look at ways of how to work with the new supreme ruler. And you can establish a narrative. that today you have a new leadership who is willing to work with us, and perhaps we could come to a consensus. But that's not where we're going. We're still playing in the propaganda war games, and we're still playing with the notion that more confrontations, more attacks will lead to the United States and Israeli winning the war. That is not how it's being played on the ground, despite what we've seen of the damages that they are causing to the Iran.
Perfect. And Dr. Abdunnoor Toumi, let's talk a little bit about diplomacy. So we saw the Arab League meeting, we saw the statements condemning attacks on Arab states, and we also saw the calls for international law. But on the ground, Zionist jets are still striking Iran. Iran is retaliating. And as a matter of fact, I can just read a few headlines that are breaking just now. The Iranian media is saying that the latest batch of rockets included cluster munitions and targeted occupied Palestine. The 30th wave of Operation, the True Promise 4, was launched successfully, marking the first missile strike toward occupied territories under the new Iranian Supreme Leader, Mujtaba Khamenei. And I can go on and on and on about what's happening on the ground. Now, the region is burning effectively. So is this diplomacy anything more than theater while the real players, Washington and Tehran, decide the fate of the Middle East here?
Actually, I mean, this brings us to the broad question about the international organizations and regional organizations as well. And this is, I mean, I think we can ask this question, for instance, applies also on the UN. I mean, why does the UN exist? And of course, I mean, everybody knows the answer is about peace and security and development. But 80 years later, I mean, the UN now looks like the League of Nations. So that the Arab League, unfortunately, who has become irrelevant, and so the Arab League, I mean, hasn't been resolving any conflicts. I mean, to the contrary, it did to some extent, I won't say, I mean, implicitly was the cause of some, like, you know, crisis in Somalia and the Sudan. And I'm not talking about Sudan today. I mean, the tragedy that Sudan is going through. I mean, what happened to Sudan in 2011 when it was split. So, but this is, again, it's all about the balance of power. And there is a new Middle East and a new Gulf area. So there are actors and countries and in the region. For instance, Turkey, it's still, I mean, working behind the scenes for discredit this, for, I mean, to break through or find possible solution to break through for this crisis, so that Sultanate Amman, Qatar, and actually, I just reported yesterday. I mean, there is. I mean, it's not mentioned in the media or widely reported in the media. Algeria has this leverage to position itself in this posture and to be a credible mediator. I mean, at least to find a solution to break through that will lead to a ceasefire. But again, unfortunately, right now, the main actors who are shaping this dynamic or this equation of war and peace is actually the two belligerent, I mean, Tehran and Washington. But one has to remember, the one who is causing all this instability and all these problems is the Zionist entity, because all this mass is created by the Zionist entity, in which it doesn't want the region to be stable or continue, particularly the Gulf countries who have been enjoying a good time of stability, development, and prosperity. So now all these are in danger, and actually there is this nightmare scenario. The Zionist entity leadership is pushing or trying to drag on the Gulf countries to this war. So this is why, again, we are totally in a new Middle East and Gulf region, and in terms of geopolitics and geoeconomics. And as Mr. Sassi and Professor Salhi did mention that about the repercussions and the consequences that are not only for these, catastrophic scenarios or consequences are not only for the region, but also are impacting the world, and notably in the US. And now I think the parameter that will shape this is how the American people will react to this war when they see the price of the gas gallon will reach $10, for instance. And we are already feeling this here in France. And I saw just this afternoon how the price of the gas has reached €2 and €2.20 a liter.
And since you mentioned those consequences, I get back to Mr. Mohammed Krissasi. So when we speak about diplomacy, actually the financial markets are watching this distance between diplomacy and destruction happening in the Middle East, Mr. Mohammed Krissasi. Now, the Arab League statements provide no concrete action as a solution to this, only words. Now, we do not expect markets to put a price on words there, can we? So when the bombs are real and oil is spiking up, how are we going to see the reaction of those markets, Mr. Mohammed Krissasi?
Yes, we'll definitively. Talking about the League, Arab League, for me, all what they do is lip service, and they are submitted themselves to the dictatorship of the Zionism, and I'm sorry to say that. And I'm not going to insist, but I'm sure you get the picture. We have many, many examples where the League Arab doesn't do anything, to begin with the Palestinian question, and now with the Iran war. They try to blame Iran when the aggressor is Israel, when the aggressor is United States, and they don't have the courage to say that Iran never attacked Israel, neither attacked the state. This being said, overall, I think the market is going to find his own way to find other route for the other than the Strait of Hormuz. And so you have going to have countries like my country, Algeria, for example. I would like to say that also, that Algeria is going to be one of the beneficiaries of this state of war, because Algeria, I will give you the breakdown. The high price today, as to me, was you saying now, the barrel is almost $100, by the way. The gas at the pump in America is from $3 10 days ago, now is almost at $4. Evidently, they are going to find another way. And Algeria is in a position to be a player. Why? Because Algeria, 93% of our exportation is oil. We have tremendous reserve, and they are going to be one of the diversification of sourcing. Now, the oil market is going to sustain by himself, because it's really a market, then c'est l'offre et la demande, but then it's going to be a stabilization, the trickle-down economics. By nature, it happened in 1973, I don't know if you remember at that time, and it was costly. It goes up to almost $200, and then we find a way to go around it. So I'm very optimistic regarding the oil market. Now, the other thing is how the region is going to come back from this? And that's the question. I'm talking about America, I'm talking about Israel, and also for European. Because Russia now is there and they're saying, okay, we are going to play the market, and they are going to ask for a higher price and also to take off some of the economical barrier that they did have with the European community. I don't want to bombard you with all this number, but I think I still, as the economy is going to be affected because of this war, but the war is not going to go for that long, in my point of view. And on the other hand, you are going to find a new geographic map regarding the finance, and the dollar as well is not going to be the sacrosanct dollar. China is going to intervene, Brazil is going to intervene, India is going to intervene, and America is not going to be the main player in the world with his dollars.
Mm-hmm. And let's dive a little bit more into the Arab League emergency session and the final communique, which contained several key points. The ministers condemned the attacks on Arab states, calling them illegal, without prior warning, a violation of sovereignty, and undermining of peace. They affirmed unwavering support for the integrity and sovereignty of targeted Arab states or territories, and supported the right of these states to defend themselves, including the option to respond. Dr. Hamoud Salhi, so the communique also calls on Iran to immediately cease all military attacks on neighboring states. Yet Iran's position, as stated by President Pezeshkian, is quite clear. In fact, he says, if the territory of any country is used to attack our land and aggress against us, we will be compelled to respond to that attack. Isn't Iran's position legally defensible under Article 51 of the UN Charter, the right to self-defense? And why is the Arab League not applying the same logic to Iran that they apply perhaps to Ukraine or any other nation facing aggression?
You know, he reminded me of, or this position of the Arab League reminded me of what the Israelis, the Zionists, say or used to say about Arab military strategists or leaders or Arabs in general, which is to a large degree not correct. The Arabs don't read. And there was a perception that this was a question about one of the general using the same strategy that they used previously in the wars against the Arabs. And he basically, when asked about that, he said he was not afraid. He would not. He would because the Arabs do not lead. Why I'm saying this? When we look at the situation on the ground today, what we're reading, and you could see that the Arab League Council Minister doesn't seem to perhaps just give them the benefit of the doubt and understand the political consideration that maybe they were driven by other motives rather than what is on the ground. The fact is, you have really two models they could follow. One is the Algerian position, which is really look at this situation from a neutral or non-aligned movement perspective. That you are there to pursue positive action to bring all the parties together. There is a huge problem in what's happening in these attacks by the Iranians, a response to what this military bases are doing. The ministers, those who attended this meeting, know very well the rules, the international law, the diplomatic rules, what it means to have a military base. And then you take a position only against Iran. That's false. Let's see how the Chinese address this issue. The Chinese and their positions is the first one they underlined is a de-escalation. And that's what the Arab leaders should look at, is find a way how to de-escalate the conflict and present a view that this conflict is being too complex, too difficult to resolve. And we in order to resolve it, we have to stop this war. We have to find a way of how to resolve this. And that sort of speak to to the other Chinese do is they speak with wisdom. They look at how this situation is evolving. So from that perspective, what the Arab League should have done or should look at or should do is basically look at this conflict from a perspective that international law will not justify an American-Israeli aggression on Iran, that the concept of sovereignty is very, very important in international law, that Iran's sovereignty was violated from the start, and that is a violation of international law. And that sticking to that point and looking at how you address that sovereignty is those violations is the way out of this mess, not by condemning that country or this country and not condemning, as our friend Sassi and Tomi said it eloquently, that it's about blaming others one side and forgetting the other. And it's ironically, we always look at when it comes to the Israeli Palestinians, we always say, there is the other side, and that side is a Palestinian mission. This time around, I think the Arab League needs to read the situation more strategically, and also to stick to the principle of international law. And thirdly, as Tomi began his intervention earlier, his comment earlier, these regional organizations are designed for a purpose, which to help resolve the conflict. And the Arab League certainly has a huge agenda here to achieve, if it were to achieve something. Otherwise, as one of our late presidents said, sometimes it's better to be quiet, not to say something that might be disrespectful.
Absolutely. And now, Dr. Tomi, let's just look at the Iranian position again, but this time a little deeply. A member of the Provisional Leadership Council, Ali Reza Arafi, he stated any country that wants to be safe must prevent the use of its territory against Iran. So the ball, he says, is in the court of the neighboring states. President Pezeshkian also warned we cannot strike Washington from here, so we hope our neighbors understand our position. Now, Dr. Tomi, is Iran here drawing a clear red line? They are essentially telling the Gulf states, if you allow the U.S. and the Zionist entity to use your bases or airspace, you become a legitimate target. Can we consider this a threat, or is it a realistic warning about the nature of modern warfare? And how do you read the phrase, we cannot strike Washington from here? Is that an admission of weakness or a warning that the Gulf will pay the price for America's war?
Actually, it's a part of tactics that Iran has been using since the first hours of the aggression of the American and the Zionist entity on the Iranian territory. And this tactical move is about deterrence, is to send again a message to Washington that, of course, there is an ocean, so the Iranians missiles or ballistic missiles cannot reach American cities, but we can reach your bases just a few miles from Iran. And also this is a part of, in the strategy of the raising the cost of this war, and to let the Americans, particularly the Americans, feel threatened, and their bases are there, to strike illegally on a sovereign state like Iran, but their bases that now had shown that they are on purpose to protect the Zionist entity and not to protect the Gulf countries by any means. So this is why it is, as I mentioned earlier, we are in this shift. there is a new Middle East and Gulf region in light of this war that now the CGC countries now need to look and to redesign or have another defense system that will bring all the Gulf countries together. Actually, they had one, and the main aim of the creation of the GCC in 1981 was in the aftermath of the first Gulf War between Iraq and Iran. So this is it again. We are in this new dynamic of the position of Iran in this posture, in the post first and second and third Gulf Wars. And again, as it was said by my dear friends, on their statement when it comes to the Arab League. I mean,
excuse me, Dr. Abdenour Toumi, sorry to cut your train of thoughts. We have reached the end of our special coverage for tonight. Thank you indeed for all those insights, and all to our panel, Dr. Hamoud Salhi, Mr. Mohammed Chris Sassi, and to you as well, Dr. Abdenour Toumi again. And for you, dear viewers, for trusting us with your time and your attention. Stay safe and stay informed. And until next time, do take care.